Okay, looking outside of the bubble of what is THC just doing to the brain, what about everything else? Because we have like receptors in cells, never mind neurons, throughout our body. And like the cannabinoid receptors in our brain are so called because the cannabinoids do fit in there. But you could call them other things that because of those other things that fit in there. But it's just within the framework of the study, it's ideal to call them what they are in relation to what's being studied or fitting in there. And so you have the cannabinoid 1, CB1, the cannabinoid 2, CB2 receptors that were talked about in a previous video. So I thought, what about hair loss and other things in the body? There's a reason why I thought that. And yeah, there's a connection. People in person that I've come across seem to be somewhat thin haired who smoke a lot of weed. Not all of them, but I've come across some like that. One individual who I've referred to a little bit, hinted at through the internet, is incredibly vitriolic, nasty, and if you're telling me he's wrong about anything, as I've mentioned, it's like suddenly you're gonna hack me, you're trying to hack me, or you're a PDF file. It's a PDF. Change the it's a play on words. You get the idea. Very nasty accusation because that could really ruin someone's life. Accusing that, banning it around as if it's the more you ban around such a serious accusation, it loses validity. And what about crying? Ironically, calls himself Black Wolf. But what about Crying Wolf? Oh, it's just Black Wolf moaning again. And what if he's actually calling out somebody who is doing some very nasty things one day, legitimately? No, it's just him. He's just calling people these things because you tell him he's wrong about something, and he's one of the things he uses against people, whether it's true or not. It's just him. That would be the dismissal, right? Because he cries wolf. Like Mr. Black Wolf cries wolf. He's absolutely pathetic. And, in a lot of ways, I make no empathy. In some other ways, like empathy for those who it's like they're trying to quit, they're trying to improve, whatever, but they keep coming back to the weed and it's not doing them any good. So good luck trying to quit this. But when people are this vitriolic and not admitting they need help, well, it again shows the critical thinking, the logic, the analyzing the self, and really seeing the world for what it is rather than assuming via paranoia. It goes to show that all the higher thinking is shut down. Um, he projects a huge amount, as I mentioned in the previous videos about THC, and if there's so much of it, or a blow to the head, is so whatever is shutting down your higher thinking. You can't go, oh, am I right about this? Let me think this through, analyze it, and see what the other options are. You can't. That's higher thinking, but the primal is reactionary, not proactive. This is why primitive people always argue that they're right, despite evidence glaring them in the face that they're wrong. So, does THC cause hair loss? Well, good question because of many other things. I had, hold on a sec, THC. And so this is like a short video. I need to get to work, but on does it cause hair loss? From what I've been looking at, because it raises cortisol, which is a stress hormone, you get angry and paranoid and so on, which stresses people out even more. It lowers stress hormones get in the way of so many things, and it can, without getting into detail how it does for this video, and we might get more detail in another video anyway. It lowers things like testosterone. Testosterone stimulates the activity of hair follicle luteinizing hormone. So it stimulates the hair follicle and makes you a little bit more hirsute. Which is why, generally, in general, um, women are not as hairy as men, and men are hairier than women, right? And in women, there is testosterone. People think, too many people think, I think, women estrogen hormone and men testosterone. Without testosterone, you're not a man, or some pathetic, primitive take on it. Um, Testosterone breaks down into estrogen via the enzyme called aromatase. And if you're trying to lose body fat, you may find during your sex drive might diminish a little bit, because the body fat, when you're burning that up, releases more aromatase. That is a thing, and once you've lost X amount of body fat and you're back to balance, and things will balance back out again. Don't worry about it too much. Uh, there's all different things like that, but these THC fits into receptors in hair follicles, receptors in your nails, and other cannabinoids get infused in the nail growth, and it will stain the nails. This one individual who's incredibly vitriolic, like I said, and he's very nasty, and he's part of a group that kind of bullied an individual off the internet, and there's addiction influence in other members, not the weed so much, but other things. One of them, Xanax, um, alcohol, meth. Actually, on a medical record, among other things, all combining. You can combine Xanax with alcohol is bad enough on its own, but these people have destroyed themselves of their former potential via these addictions. It's unfortunate. Another mushrooms claimed to have taken cocaine or something similar. Said, "Oh, you don't know what you're missing." I can remember that sticks in my head in a chat. I don't know if that video even exists anymore with that live chat. Uh, these people all banded together, surrounded each other with each other, because they all excessively, in a saturated way, just agree with each other all the time, regardless of question, because the higher thinking isn't there. You're just normal conversation. If you're functioning properly enough, you're going to say, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" Or "That doesn't seem to be right. Can we talk this through?" Or whatever it might be. And you just pick a subject, and somebody says something, and you think they might be wrong, and perhaps it's you that's wrong about them being wrong, and you debate it. But no, these people, you tell them wrong, and the aggression raises, the embarrassment of their lack of ability to debate raises, the cognitive dissonance raises. What is cognitive dissonance? The most simplistic layman way in which I can tell you what cognitive dissonance is. It's like you shuffle information around within a context in order to make yourself feel better about your lack of ability to understand something. So, oh, I could never have been this wrong, therefore I must have been right. Because the level of wrong is too difficult for them to think it through. Why? Because the higher thinking is atrophied. Things are making a lot more sense now. Just an avenue of an analysis is just THC, things like that, and what the higher thinking parts of our brain do versus how the more primitive parts of our brain does. So there was a name. Hold on. Uh, There was a description I was looking for. Chase Hughes talks about it, like I said, all the brain parts. Chase Hughes discusses the brain in terms of evolutionary layers, emphasizing interplay between primitive and higher brain function. He identifies the brain stem as the mammalian brain, the first sort of development as we were as mammals. Before we was even anything like a monkey, we was a rat-like creature, by the way, according to evolutionary studies and natural selection, so on. And this thing was probably in trees, whatever. Anyway, at every stage, you have a developing brain, right? And gets more and more complicated the more complex our behaviors have become, and it just one chases the other in trying to adapt to what's going on. And we are still trying to seek to improve ourselves. I think every human being on the planet tries to seek improve themselves. But there's delusions that get in the way of how to do it, and there's delusions of already being so far improved here when really it's somewhere here because of the cognitive distances. And no, okay, that's not me. I couldn't have been that wrong. I'm not like that. Can't handle it in order to feel more comfortable within the bubble of delusion. And you see a lot of that happening with people who have these addictions, and we all have a various range of addictions, I think. It's all on a spectrum, so to speak. How addicted are you to a particular thing? But really, all you could say addiction is when it's a problem for your functionality in society. Then, legitimately pen and paper diagnosis could say this is an addiction. We all are looking for a bit of a buzz on something or other here and there, a bit of escapism because reality and life is tough sometimes. So yeah, the mammalian brain has key components, noting that the brain stem governs fundamental survival mechanisms such as fear responses, which are inherited from an ancestor and remain active even in modern humans. These primitive responses, like fear of snakes and spiders, are automatic and not learned. Not learned how we think of it. It's like embedded, it's like a biological knowledge rather than trying to work things out in everyday life and, what your work environment is, how you should be helping a customer relative to what their choices are for a product, which I'll be doing that later today. I don't work till 1 o'clock, so that till 5:30, I think. Yeah, so only a short shift. And yeah, that's the higher thinking is all a lot of it is being used. A lot of the youngest parts of our brain are being used for the youngest parts of society. The working out how can we get past our detrimental self destruction that appears to raise its ugly head here and there as individuals and whole society, our whole country, even look at America. The kind of on a mass scale, America is deluded enough to delude the masses enough to think, oh, this is the best country on planet Earth. No, where is it? But it was all primitive. There was no knowledge. There was no higher thinking involved. It was all emotion. And criminal minded people know how to manipulate people via those emotions to get them to believe anything and behave in a way in which they want them to. So if you're going to be entertained and addicted, but don't question anything, fine. You're behaving now in a way in which you're going to buy my product regardless of what's true about the world. And the product could be really bad for your health, bad for your body, your brain, anything. But as long as the degrading, disgusting greed of America keeps running, everything else is just going to keep falling apart. Yeah. And, that happens. It's not just America's doing that. There's plenty of it going on in other countries. The capitalism of certain things in the UK. And I think this just proves you can sell anybody anything if you've got the right gift of the gab. Before we get into the THC again, it's like you could, a piece of string. This is the best kind of string. No other string is better. Very flexible fibers, good long wear and tear. New technology has been involved for the best materials for this to be a success. If you're gardening, you put string in your garden to mark out where your seeds are, and it will stay intact. It won't atrophy, and you have it nicely marked out. We do many different colors. It told you nothing about the facts. It's just all empty. Oh, this is the best of the best of the best. And that's America. Shallow, superficial, but while convincing the listener that it's really, really deep and research has gone into it and a lot of hard work. No, it hasn't. It's just a piece of string. Just a piece of string. Wow, right? You get the idea. And that's really what is going on when people just buy absolute junk and you wonder why. There's a lot of what we sell, I think, is junk. Personal point of view. There's a lot of what we sell is really good stuff as well. Yeah, stationery, art stuff, good craft stuff. If you're creative, um, and the art products, I think they're really good quality paints and paint tools. And from what I can tell, people always seem to be coming back, and the huge canvases for painting. That's pretty cool. But then you get all the kids' toys, and it's huge amount of capitalism on that, and it's just like little bits of plastic because they're characters. They're like £4 or £5, and it's like, how is that much? You're paying for the overheads for the advertising of the companies that want it sold, and where I work is just another middleman on that bandwagon to get things sold. Disney products are more expensive because they got overheads for the advertising, and Disney is too big a company. Even shopping bags, we've got shopping bags themed, and some of the Disney stuff, they're more expensive than some of the more regular bags, but they're the same design. They're the same thing, just a different print. Again, you can sell anybody anything. If you go, oh, that's Stitch, and a little girl wants Stitch. Well, now that bag's £2, and another bag that's exactly the same in design, same materials, but a different cover, only half the price. Yeah. So you convince people to buy something that is twice the price of something else that is exactly the same product for all intents and purposes, and is actually half the price. Yeah. Amazing. And this is where I think we need to realize as society who, what, why, when, where. Analyze the information. Not like listening to Trump. Oh, I know some of this group are working on this thing. They're great. It's going to be great for America. Amazing. I've talked to some of them in person. Very intelligent. Only the best because of the America is the best. Are you going to make it great again? God. It tells you nothing. It's thinner than just hot air. It is absolutely a void of just sounds coming out of someone's mouth. It's just sounds. You may as well just sit there and go blah 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 blah. And if it sounded good to somebody, fine. Mix it into some music and make a beat out of it. Yeah, this is great. And you're doing exactly the same thing, but within the framework. This person's been appointed to do good for the country, and you just believe it because it's making you feel good via the entertainment and consumerism parts of a brain firing up without the critical thinking. Getting back to THC, which part of the body is, where is it? THC can bind to cannabinoid receptors in hair follicles, which are part of the body's endocannabinoid system. And again, you call them cannabinoid receptors if you want, within the study of, this is fitting in there then, and this is what we're studying. So that's a cannabinoid receptor. Other things within other contexts, you could say, it's a different type of receptor, really referring to the same thing, but you're calling it really relative and related to what is slotting into this, what is fitting in. So a cannabinoid receptor can be a receptor for other things, just like the receptors in our brain. You can call them caffeine receptors, where caffeine fits in, but they're also adenosine receptors, which is really their default existence, how nature intended, I would think you could say that. A 2007 study found that cannabinoids, including THC, inhibit the growth of human hair follicles, possibly by interfering with protein synthesis in the follicle cells. This interaction may contribute to conditions like, telogen effluvium as a condition where hair prematurely enters the resting phase of the growth cycle, resulting in increased shedding. Hair does go through an activity phase and a resting phase, up and down. If it's resting for too long, it's just going to die and fall out the hair follicle. Additionally, smoking weed introduces toxins that can cause oxidative stress, damaging hair follicles. Oxidative stress, your cell membranes dying off because of toxins, oxidative stress, and they're not being able to do repair or divide enough and create new cells fast enough against the toxins, so it just dies off, basically. So oxidative stress, damaging hair follicles and the hair shaft itself, making hair more brittle and prone to breakage. A general toxicity of smoke has also been linked to slowed cell proliferation in hair follicles, potentially accelerating hair loss. THC may also influence hormone levels, such as testosterone, which could exacerbate genetic predispositions to hair thinning, although the evidence is still emerging. Yeah. Well, raising cortisol because of the stress of THC lowers, because higher cortisol for too long will lower testosterone. So I think there's domino effects, and it looks like it can be seemingly indirect, but the high levels of cortisol are there in the case of using cannabis because of too much THC. I mean, yeah, crazy. THC influences hormone levels such as testosterone. Evidence still emerging. Despite these findings, there is no definitive clinical evidence that THC directly causes hair loss. Not directly, but indirectly. Domino effect. And again, like I was saying, if you have a predisposition to thinner hair, it's going to make it worse. Some studies, such as the one from the International Journal of Trichology, found that found no effect weed use on existing hair in women with alopecia. Alopecia is a condition where losing hair. So it didn't aggravate it then, it didn't get worse. The impact of THC may be indirect, influenced by lifestyle factors, poor diet. Well, the one I'm thinking of is like smoking too much THC. His brain's going to go, "Oh, we need to eat something." You get the munchies effect. And they're talking about that here. And you get your cravings. I probably would take an educated guess. He's verging on obese here because every time you go to a profile, there's 9 to 10 on Twitter or X, whatever you got. There's 9 to 10 tweets per hour, and they're all vitriol, bitching about other people that are just going about their business. That is just. But he said a few things, and they may have commented on it, and he flares it out. Oh, it was like 9 tweets later, and somebody might tertiary say, "Oh, this look at this. This looks ridiculous," and then he'll go off on a huge tangent again. And all he's doing is just feeding more content to these content creators to point out this guy's insane. Psychosis has saying via THC. And again, tell him I'm wrong. I don't know. I can't handle that. You're making me feel bad. Therefore, it's your fault. You can't because you can't use too much critical thinking because that's shut down. Uh, yeah. In summary, while THC has biological mechanisms that could contribute to hair loss through direct hair follicle disruption, oxidative stress, and hormone changes, current scientific evidence does not establish a direct causal link. Not direct. It doesn't make it any more important that any less important that it is part of a potential because of the domino effect. If you raise cortisol, you're lowering cholesterol, and if you're not cholesterol, sorry, if you raise cortisol, you're lowering testosterone. Sorry, at the back of my brain is like all your major hormones, by the way, all the steroidal hormones. Guess what is used to create them? Cholesterol. And a lot of people, when I first tell them that, is like, huh? Thought cholesterol was bad. Now, cholesterol binding to overly processed fats really is the bad thing, really, if you. And they don't even say that as much directly within the scientific papers out there, or even the uh, doctors' opinions. It's just oh, bad cholesterol, LDL, low density, versus high density, whatever. It's just ridiculous, though, that it's like cholesterol itself is just cholesterol. Uh, so it was, let me see, LDL, cholesterol, commonly referred to as bad. It's less dense. These fatty deposits are less dense as just cholesterol. That's why it's called LDL, because there's a lot of other stuff there. Is bind it to high density. Is it HDL? Yeah, high density cholesterol. Good, because it's just cholesterol. But we've been taught and thinking with the rhetoric that the cholesterol's bad, it's a fatty deposit. So people then get confused of, oh, I want to lower it, so then you need to lower density. And it doesn't work that way. That's not what's there. That's why it's low density, because there's less of it actually there. But there's still so much of it there that they have to call it cholesterol because it's got all these other impurities in it that it's all binded to, right? And again, biological systems find balanced ways to use nutrition, which is why the human biology and probably, I don't know, probably other mammals will utilize cholesterol in chicken eggs and also the albumin, because the chicken egg, the egg yolk, high in cholesterol. The egg white, cholesterol lower in properties, so you balance things out, right? And you feel like if a doctor's even recommended to bring your cholesterol up for whatever reason, you can have a chicken, boil some chicken eggs, and just, or however you eat them, just get rid of the egg white and just use the egg yolk. Anyway, I don't know if it still has that lowering ability in some other forms, whether it's, uh, I imagine it does, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, there's evidence also that it's affecting nail growth. CBD on its own probably protecting the nail bed, but also toxins from uh, all these other chemicals can get infused into the nail growth, and that you get nails growing that look a bit stained from too much THC. They're saying that. And again, it reminds me of this bald, heavily nailed individual. To tweet 9 tweets per hour, you don't get away from the computer enough. And sometimes it looks like it's almost 24/7. Not sleeping enough. Sometimes it's going to be a trophy, mental prowess. Too much THC, going to have a trophy, mental prowess. Uh, always, comes up with all these stuff via the internet, and you think, is what's this person do? They can't even be doing anything except to be sat in front of their computer all day long, gaming, smoking weed, eating junk, and bitching about other people, going bald with long, nasty, stained nails. We know this because they shared the pictures out there. Uh, very nasty, very, very angry half the time, and not really talking coherently, talking like always sounds like they got their mouth full, and maybe it's just like they're mumbling through just a spliff being shoved in their mouth so much. Yeah, and if you heard them, you think, what? What did he say? He's aggressive and it really sounds like a primitive animal who's been drugged up, and it really is. He's the individual got the audacity to moan about other people of how they look, uh, in cleanliness, because he doesn't. Uh, yeah, and he doesn't go on camera, apart from a few photos that he's shared about him, claiming to have trained hard with, what was the name? Maurice Shogun, I think the name. A kickboxer. No, a kickboxer, is it? Um, MMA fighter. So whether it's kickboxing directly, I'm not sure. That person, there is a photo of them together, but the professional, the Shogun guy, looked at all his photos on his Facebook, and there's loads of photos of him training with other people having a photo. Not one of them with Mr. Black Wolf, that he calls himself, and this individual. Not one of them. But he has plenty of others, which tells me is like Mr. Shogun couldn't be bothered too much, but he posted it out there like it's a flex. and threatens people. It's like, drive by, pull up outside my house and find out. Inviting violence, invitation. But I think it just equates to his paranoia because of THC. It's through the roof. It's the amount of nastiness from this individual, along with the others that he's surrounded with, is a problem with groups like this over the internet. The internet is a honeypot for dysfunctional people like this because they cannot really get good friendship, quality interaction that helps them improve other people while those other people improve them out there, out the front door in the world. So rather than, in this case, rather than admit they're the problem, oh no, no, I'll try over the internet and get friends instead. But really, like I've said, they're not friends. It's just misery loves company, and they're using each other as tools for the means to their own ends because they're that lonely as individuals. Um, Bitching about other people's, like, your parents, your mama never taught you anything, or the blah blah blah, or you live, or your mum or your parents are ashamed of you, and there's no evidence of any of that. There's evidence to quite the contrary, the opposite, that their family members love them and support them. So you shut down higher thinking. You think, am I right about this? If that disappears and you just emotionally react, the emotion and the reaction is colored by what's only true about the individual, not true about the rest of the world. So I'm thinking, well, Mr. Black Wolf, parents disowned him. They're ashamed of him. Perhaps he lived in their basement for some time, got kicked out, had to fend for himself on his own. And he talks about, oh, I made it on my own. It's like, oh, you live at home with mummy and daddy. Living at home with parents is, I don't see how that's a problem if the individual isn't living like they're stuck in teenager mode for the rest of their life and expecting the parents to be mummy and daddy, so to speak. It works if they are responsible adults and growing up and they help their parents and the parents help them and they have a roof over their head. There's a good agreement between things. They can help each other around the household, teamwork, good close family unit, respect for each other's space. Great, wonderful. But no, get kicked out. Screw you. You need to fend for yourself. Educated guess what it looks like. That might have happened to him. I don't know. But how he behaves now is like you wouldn't want that in your household. You kick that out. Smoking weed seems like 24/7 and posting tweets 24/7. How are you even useful around the household? You're not. There's a picture there that he's shared with long nails, bald head, nails look like they're stained, smoking weed. The door behind him is stained and grimy and dirty and gross. Give it up, people. If you find it's prioritizing an addiction is prioritized over your interactivity with other people, they're not as important as you getting ahead. Then I don't know what to tell you. That is addiction. If you can't get a fix until you've had a good smoke, but that is addiction, and it's ruining your life as opposed to a proper functionality as a human being. As somebody that's actually useful, stop making up these cognitive dissonance fantasy stories to make yourself feel more comfortable about yourself every moment, because that's a nasty habit. Oh, well, things would be all right if I ever smoked right now. And you get a bit stressed, and I plan to do this and plan to do that, and it never happens, and you times infinity. Sure, I get annoyed with my own procrastination sometimes. I'll do this, I'll do that, and it doesn't happen in time where I want it to. Other things get in the way. Sure, We all procrastinate a little bit. But how long would you draw the line? You can't tell Black Wolf any of this because his higher thing is so atrophied. He is so primitive. But those out there who are not there yet to be that primitive, stop infusing your head with all this crap of THC that brings up your paranoia through the roof. Extremely paranoid. Imagining everyone's out to get you, and there's no logical deduction, there's no reasoning as to exactly why. Someone's gonna hack you and all this. Yeah. And it's so obvious as how he's thinking. It's so reactive. You can pull it apart. You can't really understand what he's saying sometimes over the text that's been how he's typed out there. It's sometimes vitriolic how he talks. But the actual reaction itself, the intent of you're this, you're that, he's talking about himself, unfortunately, it seems, because time and time and time again, he's proven that the projection is really high, but the analysis is not there. It's just a void of nothing happening, and you can't get it without a functioning neocortex. Yeah, but because of all that, I think, because he is bald, and you see the nails don't look too good; they look stained. And I thought, what is THC's activity fitting into hair follicle receptors or raising cortisol? Is there a connection? It appears to be there is. I want to look further into that and put that out. If anybody out there feels like they are smoking too much weed and they have issues, it could be a connection. Like they say, not a direct connection, but an indirect, a additional thing in whatever's going on in your body. Could be THC, and the additional thing to atrophy your hair growth anyway. If there was a problem to start with, chances are THC would be the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak, and then you just get too much hair loss, too much stress hormone, cortisol, lowering testosterone, which lowers the stimulation of hair follicles because the presence of testosterone stimulates the production of hair follicle luteinizing hormone, which does a bunch of other things as well. Yeah, so it's not direct, but it's domino effect. And without testosterone, the healthy levels, there's a trophy of so many things, not just muscle mass, sex drive, bone density could be a thing. Good sleep pattern, definitely a thing. But THC is ruining people's sleep pattern as well. Uh, when you're stressed and paranoid, don't sleep too well either. So all of it it's all adding things in there, indirect, but will affect it anyway. So on the whole bigger picture, it's like, yeah, all these indirect side effects or domino effects equate to it's really screwing you up. Not to mention the craving things as well. Too much weed. I got the munchies now. And go and eat a bunch of chocolate bars or something. I don't know, some junk, right? And you train your brain to constantly look for these buzzes and how people feel when they have the presence of THC is similar to sometimes how people feel when they're drinking alcohol. And don't get me wrong, I do drink some alcoholic beverages from time to time, but certainly not a alcoholic. Classic uh, people who are addicted tend to say that line, I can quit anytime I like. Yeah. But because they're trying to convince themselves and you, because you might get somebody in conversations say, "Oh, I don't think you can quit," and somebody then just like decides like, "Oh, I'm not going to drink for a whole year," and then prove it. Then there was like 2 years I didn't drink any alcoholic beverage at all, and I went by a public bar one day. I thought, "Oh, I'll go in," and then I was back drinking quite regular for quite some time. Is there potential in me to be addicted? It's possible, knowing what I've observed in the family. Uh, but I know full fact, because of my past experience, there's plenty of potential to just, it's not function just fine without it. As long as perhaps there's other vices to chill me out, like music, creativity, doing videos, whatever it is, to just let out some steam or whatever. Because sometimes people just go drink because they had a stressful day. Oh, I need a pint. I need to chill out. And it is like I said before, a suppressant. It brings you away from that, which is worrying you because it slows down the neural connections of the brain and what's going on. And by the time you come off again, your worries are back again. They're not going to go. It's not like trying to try to brush it under a carpet as a metaphor. It's like, oh, you can't see it now. Sober up and you see it again. And I think, psychologically, that's where some addiction comes from, particularly with alcohol. Thanks for watching anyway. I'll look forward to doing another video and perhaps go a bit more in depth, proper analysis of this. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm not sure. This THC is bad news. It really is. And again, what about that balance? THC, CBD, not THC right up here, CBD. Oh, there's not much left, even among other chemicals that are in this plant. Cheers. Bye.